60 years. That is the weight England carried into Atlanta Stadium on July 1st, 2026. Not just the weight of a World Cup match, the weight of a nation. The weight of every penalty missed and every semi-final lost, and every moment where it nearly happened and didn't. 60 years of a football culture being told, repeatedly, that this time could be different. And in the 7th minute, against a team that had never won a point at a World Cup until 3 weeks ago, England went 1-0 down. That goal, struck low and hard into Jordan Pickford's near post by a winger who plays in the Spanish Second Division, is not the story. The story is what happened to England after it. What happened to their body language, their composure, their identity as a team that was supposed to be good enough to end 60 years of hurt. For 67 minutes, England looked like a side that was not good enough. And Harry Kane scoring twice in the final 20 minutes does not erase what 67 minutes revealed. Because Mexico is next, in the Azteca. And Mexico just watched everything DR Congo showed them. To understand why this matters beyond one match, you have to understand what England were supposed to be. Thomas Tuchel arrived with a specific mandate, not to organize England, not to make them competitive, to win the World Cup. That is the explicit ambition the Football Association attached to his appointment. Not manage the expectations, meet them. An end to 60 years of failure, with a squad that contains more individual quality than any England generation since 1966. Bellingham, Saka, Rashford, Foden, and Kane, who had already broken England's all-time scoring records and arrived at this tournament with 5 goals in the competition, moving into the conversation for the Golden Boot. Tuchel's competitive record coming into tonight was immaculate. 11 matches unbeaten, 10 wins, 1 draw, a number that suggested this was a coach who had found the formula. DR Congo stripped that formula away in 7 minutes, and what was left underneath it told a story that England supporters cannot afford to ignore. The goal itself was not a moment of DR Congo genius. It was a moment of England failure. Chancel Mbemba, a centre-back playing out of position at left-back, stepped forward and played a simple ball over the top. It was not a sophisticated delivery. It was a test of England's defensive line's ability to manage a ball in behind. Jed Spence, selected at right back with both Reece James and Jarell Quansah unavailable through injury, was caught. The ball dropped. Brian Sapenga controlled it, opened his body, and shot low toward the near post. Pickford did not save it. And in that moment, 67,000 people inside Atlanta Stadium, who had been relaxed and expectant, became something else. And nerves in football are contagious. Watch the footage of England in the 10 minutes that follow the goal. Not the statistics, not the possession percentages, the footage. The body language of players who had told themselves that tonight was supposed to be a step towards something historic. Bellingham, lunging into a challenge that earned him a yellow card, the specific rashness of a player reacting emotionally rather than thinking. Rashford chasing the game with urgency that was disconnecting from the tactical structure Tuchel had drilled for months. Kane looking for the ball, looking for space, finding neither. England were not unlucky in those minutes. They were rattled. And rattled is the most dangerous thing a team can be when the weight of 60 years is already sitting on their shoulders. Here's the statistic that nobody mentioned loudly enough. In the opening 22 minutes, before the first hydration break reset the rhythm of the match, England had 0 shots, 0 touches in DR Congo's box, against a team ranked outside the top 40 in world football. Not because DR Congo were suffocating them tactically, because England's players, individually and collectively, had been psychologically disrupted by a goal that contradicted every expectation about how this night was supposed to go. And it was about to get worse. Because Yoane Wissa, whose 3 group stage goals had turned DR Congo from a curiosity into a genuine story of this tournament, was finding space down the right side of England's defense with an ease that should concern everyone watching. In the seconds before halftime, he received the ball inside the 6-yard box. The shot was clean. The angle was dangerous. It hit the post. Replay it. Watch where the ball goes if it doesn't hit the post. 2-0. England going into halftime trailing by 2 goals to DR Congo. The narrative that would have written itself around that scoreline would have been one of English football's darkest chapters. Not a penalty shootout heartbreak in a semi-final. Not a quarter-final exit against a tournament favorite. A round of 32 humiliation against a team that had never scored a World Cup goal until 3 weeks ago. That reality was 1 centimeter away. and England went into halftime having not found a way through against a goalkeeper named Lionel Mpasi, who plays for Le Havre in the second division of French football. Not the League One, the second tier. A keeper who on this afternoon in Atlanta was producing saves that international goalkeepers from the world's elite leagues could not have improved on. A Bellingham header, diving to his right. A Kane volley from a corner, thrown himself across the face of goal. Save after save after save, from a man almost nobody outside his country had heard of before this tournament began. That is not DR Congo's story. That is England's. Because here is what good teams do when they go behind to an opponent they are supposed to beat. They control the match. They impose their quality. They suffocate the opponent with technical superiority until the physical and psychological pressure of defending produces the error that leads to the equalizer. England did not do that. They chased. They pressed individually without pressing collectively. Their fullbacks were uncertain. Their midfield was disorganized. And the crowd, which had turned from anticipation to anxiety to something approaching fear in the space of 45 minutes, was booing what they saw. Not booing DR Congo, booing England. Thomas Tuchel, watching from the technical area with the controlled expression of a man who refuses to show what he is feeling, made a decision in the second half that reflected everything about what this night was demanding of him. He waited. He let the second half begin. He allowed the players on the pitch the chance to solve the problem themselves. They couldn't. And then he unloaded. Saka on, Gordon on, Eze on. The full complement of England's attacking reinforcements sent onto the pitch because what was out there wasn't working, and the clock was moving, and Mexico was waiting, and 60 years of hurt does not survive 2-0 down to DR Congo. But here is what those substitutions also said. That the tactical approach Tuchel had designed for this match, the starting lineup, the structure, the game plan, had not been good enough to break down DR Congo's defense without Kane being gifted a different kind of opportunity. That it required personnel changes to change what England were doing. That the version of England that started this match was not good enough to win it. And before those substitutions could change anything, there was a moment that will be debated long after the final result has been filed away. Kane chased a through ball into the DR Congo box, trying to round Mpasi. There was contact between the goalkeeper and England's captain. Kane went down. He appealed. The referee, Adam McCodmy, waved it away without going to the monitor. VAR reviewed the situation, and the original decision stood. Whether it was a penalty or not is a question that every analyst who watched the footage has a different answer to. Some saw clear contact. Others said Mpasi got enough of the ball to make the collision incidental. The referee and VAR said no. What was not debatable was Kane's fury, and what his fury communicated. That England's captain, who is supposed to be the composed axis around which this team's ambitions rotate, who carries the weight of expectations more directly than anyone else in a white shirt, was frustrated. Visibly, genuinely, uncontrollably frustrated. And the next 20 minutes required Kane to be the most composed person on the pitch. He was. Anthony Gordon, on as a substitute, collected Declan Rice's overhit cross at the far post, slowed it, and pulled it back across the 6-yard box. Kane arrived at exactly the right moment, losing his marker Axel Tuanzebe with a movement that only truly intelligent forwards make, and his header went down and in. 1-1, 68 minutes. And 11 minutes later, Gordon again. A pass into Kane's feet on the edge of the box. One touch to control. A turn. A driven shot high into the roof of the net. 2-1, England. The relief in those celebrations told you more about what the previous 67 minutes had been than any statistic could. This was not a team celebrating a comfortable victory. This was a team celebrating escaping something. The post-match expressions of Tuchel's players, the hugs that lasted slightly too long, the faces that carried exhaustion rather than joy, were the faces of people who understood how close the alternative had been. Tuchel, in the press conference, said his team had kept believing. He praised their mentality. He described the need not to lose patience. All of it true, all of it genuine, and all of it containing the specific political care of a manager who knows that what he says about his players in public becomes part of the environment they compete in. What he didn't say, because managers don't say it in press conferences, was the thing that everyone watching understood. This was not good enough, not for a team with these ambitions, not for a squad with this quality, not for an England side that arrived at this tournament telling itself and being told that this could be the year. Because Mexico is next, in the Estadio Azteca, a stadium with a capacity of nearly 87,000 people, almost all of them Mexican. In a city where football is not a sport but a religion, in a nation that is co-hosting this tournament, and whose supporters have been waiting for exactly this knockout fixture. Mexico did not watch tonight's match as neutral observers. They watched it as a scouting report. And the scouting report told them something specific. England's right side is exposed when the fullback is caught under a long diagonal ball. England's defensive line loses its shape when the game plan is disrupted early. England's midfield structure can be made disorganized by pace and transition. England's goalkeeper can be beaten at the near post. And England, when they are losing, rely on Kane to solve the problem in a way that the rest of the team's collective play cannot. None of those things were secrets before tonight, but none of them had been confirmed in a knockout match, on television, in front of the world. Tonight confirmed them. Kane now has 13 World Cup goals. He is 6th on the all-time list, level with just Fontaine, above Pelé. His 2 goals tonight were the difference between England reaching the round of 16 and England being eliminated in the most embarrassing fashion of modern tournament football. His composure in the moments when England's composure was failing, his heading, his positioning for the first goal, his turning and finishing for the second, were the difference. That is a problem. Not the goals, the dependence. World Cup winners are not teams built around one player being good enough to rescue everyone else. They are teams where the collective performance is sophisticated enough that the pressure does not all concentrate in one man. France have Mbappe, but they also have a defensive structure. Spain have young talent distributed across every position. Argentina won in 2022 because when Messi was controlled, Di Maria stepped up, and when Di Maria was controlled, the team structure produced results. England tonight produced results because Kane stepped up. And he will not always be able to. The Azteca will find ways to limit him. Mexico's defensive organization will be built around taking away what Kane does, and when that happens, England will need answers from somewhere else. The question that this match asked and did not answer is whether those answers exist. Does Bellingham, who was booked for a frustrated lunge and was described by one match report as being fortunate to stay on the pitch after a late challenge, have the temperament to be decisive rather than reactive in the highest pressure moments? Does Rashford, who has moments of genuine quality but has not yet defined this tournament the way his profile suggested he might, have the consistency to carry England when Kane is being managed out of the game? Does Tuchel have a game plan that can win without requiring his captain to come from behind and save everyone? Tonight gave no evidence that any of those answers are yes. England are through. They survived. They go to Mexico with 5 goals from Kane and the knowledge that their captain is one of the best players in the world, and that in knockout football, one player of that quality can change everything. But Mexico's supporters in the Azteca will be singing from the first whistle. The noise will be unlike anything this England generation has experienced on a football pitch. The pressure will be unlike anything that can be manufactured in a training environment. And if England go behind in the Azteca the way they went behind in Atlanta, the question will not be whether Kane can save them again. The question will be whether 67 minutes of vulnerability, followed by 2 goals from one man, is a pattern or a peak. Tonight said it might be a pattern. The Azteca will find out. What do you think? Or was this the kind of difficult match that all World Cup winners go through on the way to glory? And if Mexico can exploit what DR Congo exposed, is this England squad genuinely capable of ending 60 years of hurt? Leave it in the comments. These are the conversations this channel exists for.